You might think you're a perfectly polite passenger, but, according to flight attendants, many of us are guilty of habits that drive them absolutely crazy. They won't call you out mid-flight. They'll smile, stay professional, and carry on, but behind the scenes, they're dealing with constant frustrations caused by everyday traveler behavior. In this video, we're diving into 15 things flight attendants secretly hate. Let's get into it. 1. Snapping fingers or whistling to get attention. Believe it or not, some passengers still snap their fingers or even whistle to get a flight attendant's attention, as if they're calling over a waiter at a noisy restaurant. But flight attendants aren't only there to serve you. They're trained safety professionals responsible for handling emergencies, managing cabin procedures, and keeping the entire flight running smoothly. Using rude gestures like finger snapping not only shows a lack of respect, it can instantly sour the interaction. You're far more likely to get help and a friendly response if you simply use the call button or wait for them to pass by during service. 2. Ignoring the safety demonstration. Maybe you've flown dozens or even hundreds of times and you feel like you already know everything there is to know about safety. But here's the thing, every aircraft is different, and in an emergency, those few minutes of safety information could actually save your life. When passengers completely ignore the safety demo, it sends a clear message to the crew that you're not taking their job seriously. And worse, it shows you're not taking your own safety seriously either. So even if you think you've heard it all before, at least give them the courtesy of looking up and listening. 3. Standing up right after landing. It happens on almost every flight. The moment the wheels touch the runway, you hear a chorus of seatbelts clicking open as passengers jump up, grab their bags, and start crowding the aisle. But here's the reality. The plane is still moving and the seatbelt sign is still on for a reason. Standing up too early is dangerous. Sudden stops or sharp turns while taxiing can knock people off balance or cause luggage to fall. Cabin crew are trained to manage the flow of deplaning safely, and when passengers jump the gun, it creates chaos and potential injury. Not to mention, you won't get off the plane any faster. 4. Getting drunk or bringing your own alcohol. Let's be clear, bringing your own alcohol on board and drinking it is not just frowned upon, it's actually illegal on most commercial flights. The only alcohol you're allowed to consume in the air is what's served to you by the cabin crew, and that's for good reason. Flight attendants are trained to monitor alcohol consumption and manage the environment in the cabin. When passengers drink excessively or sneak their own stash, the crew loses control of the situation, which can quickly escalate. Drunk passengers can delay flights, trigger emergency landings, and even get physically restrained. These incidents can lead to arrest upon landing, hefty fines, or being banned from flying with the airline in the future. 5. Trying to sneak into a better seat. Picture this, you're assigned to seat 27B, but as you walk past row 6 and see an empty aisle seat with extra legroom, you think, why not? So after takeoff, you casually slide into it, hoping no one will notice. But flight attendants notice, they always do. Sneaking into a better seat without permission might seem harmless, but it creates a logistical headache for the crew. It also puts flight attendants in the uncomfortable position of having to confront you and ask you to return to your assigned seat, sometimes in front of other passengers. That's awkward for everyone. If you really want to move, just ask. 6. Going to the bathroom during boarding. At first glance, slipping into the bathroom during boarding might seem harmless. Maybe you just drank a coffee before the flight or the terminal restroom had a line, but doing this during boarding can cause more disruption than you might think. During boarding, the aisles are already crowded with passengers trying to find their seats, stow their carry-ons, and settle in. When someone tries to squeeze their way forward or backward to reach the lavatory, it blocks the natural flow and slows the entire process down. Other passengers are forced to step aside or wait, and flight attendants have to navigate around you while trying to complete safety and seating checks. 7. Leaving trash everywhere. Throughout the flight attendants make several passes through the cabin with trash bags, often announcing it clearly so passengers can dispose of their waste. Yet somehow, by the end of the flight, you'll still find napkins stuffed into seat pockets, snack wrappers on the floor, and half-empty cups abandoned on the tray table. Not only is this messy and unhygienic, but it also makes the turnaround process longer and more difficult for the crew. Flight attendants have limited time to clean and reset the cabin for the next flights. Their primary job is safety, not picking up after careless passengers. 8. Going barefoot on the plane. No. Just no. Walking barefoot on an airplane is one of the fastest ways to make flight attendants cringe. It might feel relaxing to kick off your shoes, especially on a long flight, but planes are not the place to go full spa mode. The cabin floor sees everything: crumbs, spilled drinks, dirt from thousands of shoes, and worse. And as for the lavatory, those mysterious wet spots on the floor are not water. Turbulence often causes splashes or spills, and the lavatories don't get cleaned mid-flight. Stepping in that barefoot is not just unhygienic, it's downright risky. 9. Getting aggressive about overhead bin space. Overhead bin space is one of the most contested parts of the plane, and some passengers treat it like it's a first-come, first-served battleground. You've probably seen it: people pushing their way down the aisle, throwing their bags in sideways, moving other people's belongings to make room for their own, or hogging space above someone else's seat. This behavior isn't just rude, it's disruptive, and creates unnecessary tension before the plane even takes off. It also slows down boarding and increases the chances of bags not being stowed properly, which can become a safety issue during takeoff or turbulence. 10. Flirting or making inappropriate comments. What might feel like harmless small talk or playful flirting to you can easily come across as uncomfortable, distracting, or even threatening to flight attendants. They're trained to remain calm, friendly, and approachable, which some passengers wrongly interpret as personal interest. But let's be clear, flight attendants are working professionals performing a demanding job in a high-pressure environment. They are not part of some mid-air dating app, and they shouldn't have to deal with comments about their appearance, invasive personal questions, or inappropriate jokes while ensuring passenger safety and comfort. 11. Constantly ringing the call button for non-emergencies. The call button is an important tool for passengers. It's there to signal the crew when you genuinely need something, especially if it's urgent or you can't leave your seat. But when used excessively or for trivial requests, it becomes a source of frustration for flight attendants trying to manage the entire cabin. Ringing the bell repeatedly to ask for things like a second bag of peanuts, a different drink, or even to ask how much longer the flight will be is disruptive. Constant, non-essential call button use pulls them away from more important duties and slows down overall service for everyone. 12. Blocking the aisle. During boarding or service, airplane aisles are narrow, high-traffic zones that serve one main purpose: keeping people and service moving. When a passenger stops to rummage through a bag, take off a jacket, or have a conversation in the middle of the aisle, it can quickly create a bottleneck. Other passengers are forced to wait, unable to reach their seats or store their luggage. It slows down the boarding process and puts unnecessary pressure on the crew to get the plane ready for departure on time. 13. Not saying hello or acknowledging the crew. Boarding a plane can feel routine, especially if you fly often, but that doesn't mean basic courtesy should be left at the gate. A simple hello, good morning, or even a smile when you step onto the aircraft can make a surprisingly big difference. Flight attendants are required to stand at the door and greet every single passenger as they board. It's not just about being polite, it's also part of their safety protocol. They're trained to assess passengers quickly, looking for signs of distress, intoxication, or anything that might become an issue later in the flight. 14. Filming the crew without permission. We live in the age of smartphones, and yes, people record everything from takeoff to turbulence to that heated moment in row 12. But filming flight attendants without their consent, especially during stressful or sensitive situations, crosses a line. Flight attendants are doing their jobs under strict regulations, often while juggling safety protocols, emotional passengers, and tight schedules. Recording them while they're managing a conflict, delivering instructions, or enforcing policies not only violates their privacy, but it can also distort the context of what's happening. 15. Complaining about things outside their control. Your flight is delayed, there's turbulence, the gate has changed for the third time. You're tired, frustrated, maybe even anxious, and that's completely understandable. Travel can be stressful, and plans don't always go as expected. But taking that frustration out on a flight attendant is not only unfair, it's also counterproductive. Flight attendants have no control over weather conditions, air traffic delays, maintenance issues, or airport logistics. Yet they're often the ones on the receiving end of complaints, eye rolls, and even verbal abuse when things go wrong. That brings us to the end of the list, so how many of these have you done without even realizing it? No shame, we've all made travel mistakes. But now that you're aware, you can be one of those rare passengers who actually makes a flight attendant's day a little easier. If you learned something new or just enjoyed the video, give it a like and subscribe for more travel tips and behind-the-scenes insights from the skies. Thanks for watching, and as always, safe travel.